It's funny how the nights that change you forever don't announce themselves. They don't come with dramatic music or warning signs. They just show up quiet and ordinary, and then years later you realize, yeah, that was it. That was the moment everything shifted. That night started like any other long assignment, rain tapping against the windows, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and me standing in a hospital room wondering how much longer my legs could pretend they weren't tired. We were there guarding a man most people would never recognize, just another patient in a bed with a cast on his leg, heart monitor beeping steady, like it didn't have a care in the world. But for us, he was the end of a 3-year chase, the kind that eats at your sleep and follows you home even when you're off the clock. I'd been underestimated my whole life, you know what I mean? Too quiet, too calm, too polite, people assuming that meant I didn't belong where I was standing, and I didn't know it yet, but that night was about to put all of that right on the table. My partner Marcus stood across from me, arms folded, eyes half tired but sharp. The way you get when you've done this job long enough to know boredom is when mistakes happen. We weren't talking much, just listening to the rain and the machines, thinking our own thoughts. The guy in the bed, we called him Hawk, had that fake sleep thing down perfectly, breathing slow, face relaxed. But I knew better. Guys like him were always listening, always watching. And honestly, the night probably would have stayed boring if that door hadn't slammed open so hard it made the heart monitor skip, and Hawk crack one eye just enough to see what kind of entertainment just walked in. The officer who stepped in didn't knock, didn't ask, didn't even hesitate, just walked in like he owned the place, boots loud on the tile, chewing gum, like it had personally offended him. Officer Grant, though, at the time, he was just another uniform with a chip on his shoulder. He looked at me, then at Marcus, then at Hawk, and I could see it happen, that snap judgment people make without even realizing they're doing it. His face tightened. His eyes went cold, and he didn't bother hiding it. "What's going on here?" he barked, voice already halfway to a shout. "You two trying to scam this guy or something?" Yeah, that happened. I felt that old familiar heat rise in my chest, the kind you get when you've had this conversation before, when you already know where it's headed. I kept my voice calm because calm had kept me alive more than once. "Officer, this is a restricted situation. You're not authorized to be here. I'm going to need you to step back." Simple, professional, exactly how it's supposed to go, except it didn't. Grant laughed, not a real laugh, more like a bark stepped closer than he needed to. "You don't tell me to step back in my own city," he said, eyes flicking over our suits like they offended him. "Those costumes don't make you special." I could feel Marcus tense beside me just a little, and I gave him the smallest shake of my head. "Not yet. Let him talk. Let him show everyone exactly who he is." He kept going, calling us scammers, calling us liars, saying we didn't belong there, his hand resting on his belt like he was waiting for an excuse. The red light on his body camera blinked steadily, quietly recording every word, every insult, every bad decision stacking up. "I don't care who you think you are," he said, leaning in close enough. I could smell the gum in this town. I decide who stays and who goes. And I remember thinking I've heard that line my whole life, just dressed up in different words. I warned him again, slower this time. "Officer, you're interfering with federal business. Step away." That's when his face flushed red with anger, embarrassment, maybe both, and he poked me in the chest hard enough that Marcus finally took a step forward. "Hands where I can see them." Grant snapped suddenly, acting like I was the threat you reach for anything and this gets ugly. And just like that, he called for backup, shouting into his radio about 2 hostile suspects refusing to comply, the hallway filled with noise boots, pounding radios, crackling doors opening, and suddenly the room felt smaller, tighter, like the air itself was holding its breath. 3 more officers rushed in, one of them a senior sergeant, older, tired eyes, the kind of guy who's seen enough to know trouble when it's standing right in front of him. He took in the scene in about 2 seconds, Grant yelling us, standing still, Hawk watching like he'd paid for front row seats, and something in his face changed. "Everybody hold it," the sergeant said, then looked straight at me. "Who are you?" I didn't answer. I moved slowly, deliberately, reached into my jacket and pulled out my credentials. The badge caught the light and shined bright enough to make the room go dead quiet. You could hear the rain again, the machines, even Grant swallowing hard. The sergeant stared at the badge, then at me, then at Marcus, and I could see the realization hit him like a punch to the gut. He turned to Grant, voice low and sharp. "Against the wall. Now." Grant tried to laugh it off, tried to say it was a misunderstanding, but nobody was listening anymore. The sergeant took his radio, took his weapon right there in front of everyone, and Grant's confidence drained out of him like someone pulled a plug. I finally spoke, voice steady but cold. "I'll need a copy of that body cam footage," I said first thing in the morning. Grant couldn't even look at me. By the end of the week, he was off the force. The footage was reviewed, complaints filed, and there was no spinning it, no burying it. People saw exactly what happened. Marcus and I finished the assignment. Hawk went to federal prison, another runner grounded for good. But that night stuck with me. Not because we won, not because someone else lost, but because it reminded me how thin the line really is between authority and arrogance, between justice and prejudice. Some people say Grant got what he deserved. Others say his career shouldn't have ended over one night, and honestly, that argument never really goes away. So I'll ask you, where do you draw that line? Have you ever been judged before you even opened your mouth, or maybe you've been the one doing the judging without realizing it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell your story, because moments like this aren't rare. They're just usually not caught on camera, and the choices we make in them say more about who we are than any badge or title ever could.